Mm. Good evening, everybody. My name is Teacher Tina, and here with my colleague, Teacher George, we're going to present the blended model. George, you have the word.
So, good evening, everybody. Today we are going to talk about the blended model. So, we have over here three different references about this new model in education. We have one from Tony Ye, Cancel, and David Lynch, 2017. This blended model presents bipolar continuum involving F2L and online. The application of this continuum to teaching and learning requires the consideration of multiple factors.
Okay.
Yes. So, also, Christina and colleagues, we can say that these blended models is a fundamental change of education in the educative area. So, this is a combination model. We can define it as a hybrid model because we have face-to-face activities and teaching that like was in traditional classroom, and we have the involvement of digital objects or device.
Mhm. Okay, what you mentioned is reinforced in the other reference, one provided by Bunks and Graham. It's part of the ongoing convergence of two archetypal learning environments, and by Dubinza, Pisciano, and Graham again, defined or conceptualized as a wide variety of technology media, integrated with conventional face-to-face classroom activity. Something that we can highlight of the blended model is that actually mix two methodologies, face-to-face classroom and online online methodology, support with the technology and media device. Now, we are going to explain here the characteristic advantage and disadvantage. First of all, I would like to summarize again what is the components of a blended model. It's partly online, is partly and going into learning path. These three fundamental aspects is what's built the blended model because it provides an option for student and for teacher to ensure learning in a new way. Now, some of the characteristics as the flexibility, the effectiveness, personalization, increasing reach, and cost effectiveness. And all these characteristics they summarize that the blended model provides a new way of teaching and learning practice for the student and for the teacher and all the teaching community, learning community. I mean, the educative community, because this is mostly seen in universities and also in high schools that are using the blended model, okay, to try to reach for the learning in the students. Now we can talk about the advantage and disadvantage. I give you the word, George.
Okay, thank you. As an overall in advantages, we can say that it reduces time, it reduces cost, and reduces resources. But we can say that it allow experiment with the learning style. Okay, as we know, our students are not equal, are not the same in the classroom. They have different learning style. Some of them are auditorium, some of them have many different ways. They are kinesthetic. So in this way, we are going to understand how different students learn in our classroom. We can involve them, everyone, in this method. And another advantage is that it is interactive media and enhanced learning. Okay, we involve devices, platform, and as you know, in this time of technology, everybody have to use a smartphone, a tablet, a smart TV, a computer. So they are going to feel comfortable in the classroom. It's not at the same maybe 5 to 10 years ago. And maybe this model have increased because of the pandemic. And we are
Yes.
not ready, maybe here in Panama, to implement this method in the teaching, but we had to do it. Okay, we have pushed, but it's amazing the advantages we have here in Panama and education and everybody. This model is applied.
Well,
Okay, some of the
another advantage that I would like to highlight is that it's unaffected by geographic or time. I mean, the blended model can be used in any part of the world and it can be used at the time of the student and also to the time of the teacher. I think that this is another important advantage because blended model is not limited or restricted to one area in particular. It can be used worldwide. So continue.
yes, okay, one disadvantages of it is that the cost of softwares and hardware.
Yes.
Sadly, many school, college don't have the resources, okay, to have maybe these devices in the classroom for each student.
And that's an
Creating
interesting disadvantage. That's an interesting disadvantage because we would like that the blended model can be used by anyone. However, you cannot receive a good without paying the price, and we know that the blended model is highly costly. Continue, please.
Sure. Okay. This is the main disadvantages with this model because schools are not prepared. So we have to do it little by little or step by step to enjoy and to use this amazing model, which is a revolution around the world.
Okay. Now, how do we plan a blended syllabus? Well, after seeing some videos of our other colleagues, they all come like to the same conclusion about the blended syllabus, but they highlight three relevant aspects, which are the objective, the research, and the assessment. Well, for you, we these aspects are actually relevant for the blended syllables, or you mention or would like to highlight another one?
As you said, it's perfect. It's right.
So, on the blended model, I'm pretty sure that the objectives should focus on student learning and a skill that must be developed. Because this is like the roots for of the blending syllables. This part of this section in the planning is actually the roots. Then we come to another section important that are the research.
Yeah. This model is student centered. So in
Mhm.
this case, we as teachers are just facilitator. We manage, we administrate the classroom. We are facilitators. So this method is student centered. Focus on them, on their abilities, their intelligence. As we know, there are many types of intelligence. For example, multiple intelligence. So over here, they are going to put in practice all of them. Okay, it's quite amazing because it's focused on the students learning. It's not everything about us as teacher in a synchronic way, but we applied it on the student learning styles.
Okay, okay, that's true. That the planning, that our planning of the blending syllabus, it should be focused on a student-centered approach. But also, we should need to look at the other aspect of the plan. The research and assessment are important because with the research we can use resources available online or technology media or any other device or I mean or device or any other research that can help boost student learning. But one part of the planning that actually pay very attention and I will like put an emphasis is the assessment. How can we assess the blend model? Or how do you assess it if you were doing your own syllabus? What kind of assessment you will use for a blend model planning?
How can we assess it? First of all, I can use many group activities in pairs because one of the main purpose of it is a bite-sized chunk of information. As
Okay.
we can split the class in three stages. A time of face-to-face learning, maybe for instruction, for the main instruction in the classroom. Later, they are going to use the devices, computer or smartphone. It depends on the student's age, of course. And finally, we are going to have the time, the structure to know how they have learned. And in that way, is in that moment, I'm going to accept them.
Okay, that's a good way. Well, from my perspective, if I have to assess my students, I would like to create a particular instruction. That means that my student can have the opportunity to show the abilities and the skill they have developed in the course that I given hypothetically, but seeing it. I mean, so some clear example could be that the student make a video about what they have learned in the course, or explain live with a fictional classroom if they are if they are taking the course of being for a teacher that try to improve a classroom. So I can be that way of assessing, but I will put emphasis on assess their skills and competencies.
Sure,
Now,
teacher Christina. For
now we
example, okay, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
don't worry. Now we have
For
enough
example, yeah,
space for a debate. So look this question that I will read them, but pay attention to them. The first one, where does technology take place in blended class? Do we all we have to use technology to make it blended? It is related.
Okay, where does technology take place in a blending class? Maybe in the timing of the length, in the middle of the class for a formative activity.
Okay.
As you said before, we can compare it. Maybe we are teaching them something of grammar, so they can use in the middle in the class as a workshop to design a platform, maybe a comic or a short video explaining the grammar in the content.
That's a good proposal. That's a good proposal. Well, do all we have to use technology to make it blended? This is a tricky question. However, I consider that we need to use technology at some point in the classroom to build the blended model. However, it's not necessary that we use oftenly. Now, it is related. Technology and blended model. Well, from my perspective, they are related. They actually related. But technology is a complementary in the blended model. That doesn't mean it's the full aspect of the blended model.
Technology is not just related. I think it's part of it.
It's part of it.
It's
So
a part
we
of
can agree on that part. Now let's go with the second question. Can we insert the blended model in the school with lack of resources? We'll try to focus this case in Panama.
It's very difficult, but not impossible. Maybe, as said before, we can implement it little by little. And with a model school, as you know, there are around the country different bilingual modeling school. Maybe we can apply them in those schools first, and little by little until every school, every college around the country. But it's very difficult because we don't have resources. As you know, with Meduca, there are problems with the budget. Maybe we have problem in infrastructure yet, a restroom, bathroom, and aisle, air conditioning, many other things. So just imagine to apply a blending model in each school, maybe it will endure many years, but we have to decide and start from now. Maybe we can find it easier or faster in private school.
Yes, that's true. In private school, you maybe find faster applying this model. However, something that the pandemic teaches is that we have to be prepared for the unexpected situation, and apply. And the pandemic actually pushed us to implement the blended model in elementary school, high school, even in early high childhood education. And one clear example was the presentation of STER, that was the official platform that was used by Meduca to impart all the courses in all the official schools in Panama. And even after the post-pandemic, STER was still using for the comarcas, okay, in the remote areas, to give an option for the students that can have to walk like long distance to go to their own centers. But as you mentioned, it's hard but not impossible. But we need to start now if we want to make a chance in the educational system and in the way we are teaching. Because it is true that we cannot keep teaching in the same way that we learned 5, 10 years ago. But you also mentioned that the budget and the infrastructure could be barriers for the implementation of the blended model. Because if we don't have the proper investment and the support of the government and of our own entity, that is Meduca, this only will be reduced to words and not to concrete actions.
Sadly, as you mentioned it.
Now, for this, I would like to give two simple examples of a blended model. The first one is like the most commonly used, the flipped classroom, in which basically the roles of the student teacher are inverse. The student can have the time to go to a center, a library, to update with their current courses and also to do their activity. Also have the flexibility of the time to do it at their own pace, but following the instructions and the limitation that also comment. And at the final ones in the instructional video. The instructional video are a good example of blending of how to use the blending model. In this case, the instructional video that provide tutorials or help or support on how to build blend syllables. So, you would like to also to make another example that you know?
That's all.
Well, that's all. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, George, for your support here and your collaboration. Well, I hope you have a good night. Thank you,
Thank you, everybody.
everybody.